like a herd of angry, really upset chickens. They came in, they stormed the grain store, collected all the food, and then it's all gone, right? Hey again, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of What is Money by myself, Kyle. Coming again from the Paper Favors book. Of course, if you do enjoy this content, you'll probably enjoy the book, but obviously no obligation to buy it. Thank you for watching, in all honesty. This gives me a chance to really hone my ideas and present them to you guys, and hopefully that way share it more, get the ideas out there, and that's really what I'm trying to do. So as always, if you could hit the like button beforehand, that'd be really cool. But I understand if you want to wait to the end because you've not seen what I got to say yet. So yeah, without further ado, let's look at the second problem with bartering. All right, so before, just a quick recap, we talked about how when we were bartering, you had to trade directly one item you had or a service you were offering for an item or service offered by another person. So it was a direct swap, your cow for my goat, an apple for an orange, I'll fix your shed, you give me a kebab, all right? Whatever you wanted. You had to, there was no money, right? So no one had come up with it. One of the problems with this is what I'm going to call relative prices. Okay, so what probably started to happen was people wanted something that solved this situation here. So for example, let's say somehow people had, over time this would happen, right? People got an idea about what people were willing to trade. Okay, so for example, it might have become standard that for 3 eggs maybe you could get a couple of bananas, or I don't know, maybe a hammer was worth 10 eggs, right? And that was like known, people kind of got that, right? Probably wouldn't be written down anywhere. But over years, you kind of get an idea of things, right? And how expensive things are. Probably would have been the same. The problem is, let's say you run into a situation where you wanted to purchase all right, and all my examples, okay, I'm just coming up with things, okay, but a chair, you wanted a chair like this, and this chair was, worth about 11.5 hammers. Okay. So that's a problem, right? So maybe you could get 11.5 hammers, but the half a hammer is probably pretty useless. And equally, at that point, it might be worth like 6.5 buckets, and half a bucket doesn't even hold the water, right? So that's pretty useless. But yeah, the point being that you've then got a choice, right? Either I give you 11 hammers and then you miss out on the half hammer that you should have got, but kind of useless, or I give you 12 and I've given you too many. And so I think what probably happened next was people turned to something more divisible and more granular, and I think they probably went for something like grain or rice or something like that, something that they could use for weights, because what that would have given them would be, you could then just go, okay, I'll give you the hammer, I want half a kilo of grain, or I want 0.45 kilo of grain, or even more accurate than that. And what it means is that, you've got that very, very low denomination that you can trade with, right? So that's really good. So I think that's probably where they went next. The problem though is that even though grain's divisible, it in itself has a fundamental value, right? And this is the difference with money again. Remember I said last time that money only has value in the social construct that we all, as part of the society, agree that it has value. I know if I give you £10, you'll give me something worth £10 for it because you know you can do the same for someone else, and they'll take it from you for the same reason, and so on, right? The difference though with grain is that actually you can eat grain, right? It has some utility on its own, aside from the fact that it's tradable. And in a way, everything has the property of being tradable, right? You can trade whatever you want, within reason. But most things have a value, like the hammer. A hammer can hammer nails in. It can help you build things. Eggs, you can eat them. Doors, you can go in, you can go in and out of doors or whatever. But money, it's completely useless. It's just paper, right? You can't draw on it. You can't do anything with it other than give it to people. So yeah, okay, great, right? So what? Now the problem is, because grain has its own utility in being edible, its price, its value could fluctuate just as it does today. Okay, now our markets for food are very complicated, and they're so large and very well regulated as well, that the supply of food and the price is very well regulated. Okay, you don't very often, certainly not in the UK, so we're very lucky that generally prices of food stay pretty stable. I've never gone into like Aldi and suddenly rice is like £10 a bag. That just doesn't happen. It's about the same. But back in hundreds and hundreds of years ago, the production of food wouldn't have been that stable. Okay, and you could have had a situation where, let's say this chair was, what did I say, half a kilo? Let's say you trade half a kilo of rice for this chair. In the time that you buy the chair, what if like there was a monsoon and it just washed away all the grain, or like a herd of angry, really upset chickens? They came in, they stormed the grain store, collected all the food, and then it's all gone, right? And then what you'd have is a huge drop in supply of rice, and then that would in turn put the value of rice up. So then you'd be in a situation where you've just given away half a kilo of rice for this chair, and now this chair might only be worth like 400 grams. No, not even 100 grams, right? So like a fifth, and that's because, imagine if nearly all of the food of a village gets washed away, the value of the food goes up massively, right? Because it comes back to the fundamentals. We've all got to eat. So that's the problem, right? Bartering, even as it progressed to something more divisible, which again was a leap forward, right? It was a good idea. Even as they did that, they still have this inherent issue of aligning the trade token to something which has its own utility. All right, and that's why they needed to come up with something better, smarter, and unique, really. Before this idea of money, I guess it was pretty unique, right? And they needed to do that because if you align your universal trade token with anything that has its own inherent value, you open up all the other items to have their own value adjusting over time, and not due to their own situation. Okay, so remember, there's nothing. I guess from the point of view of the universe, there's nothing like wrong with the value of things changing anyway. But it's not great if you can't rely on things being stable. Okay, like I said, you wouldn't want to go to the shop one week and find that a cabbage is like 60p, and then the next week they're like £4. You'd be like, whoa, and then maybe everything triples. So what, it doesn't seem fair, does it? That you could end up better or worse off just based on what day of the week you decided to go shopping. That wouldn't be good. We don't want that. We don't want that kind of randomness, ideally. So yeah, that was one of the big problems they solved. Relative prices. That's what I've called it. And yeah, that's 2 of the 4 now that we've seen of why money actually has this weird duality where it has no value, but it does have a great deal of value in the way that it helps us trade more efficiently. So yeah, thank you for listening. As always, if you did enjoy it, I asked you at the start about liking the video. Maybe that was good enough. maybe not. If it wasn't or was, please let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? And that's what I want to know, right? I want to know what you think, but also, have you read any interesting like historical texts that discuss people, trading these things? Like, oh, I'll trade you my spear for your hat or something, right? I think it'd be really interesting to go through these and see how the different people did barter. I've come up with some here. I've read some as well, similar to what I just said, but I'd like to hear, some really interesting ones. I bet there's been some crazy stuff out there, like, actually, sorry, just before I go, I remember reading a long time ago, the person that traded a paperclip for a house, and it was back when one of these trading websites was getting big. It must have been about 10, 15 years ago. And I think that really illustrates well the kind of the problem with bartering, right? Although it wasn't, I'm sure they didn't mind. But yeah, what they did, they traded the paperclip for a pen or something, the pen for like a ruler, the ruler for something else. And then slowly, in terms of dollar amounts, they were getting better off, but to the person they were trading with, they were getting what they wanted, right? So if you need a paperclip and I need a pen, they're worth about the same. I'd argue the pen's worth more, and it is. You can buy a paperclip for less than you can buy a pen generally. But yeah, they were able to swap like that, and you're better off, right? You get the paperclip you want, I get the pen. Everyone's happy, right? No one lost out. We both gained, but I've actually gained what is accepted in the wider society to be something more valuable. Anyway, they kept doing that, and eventually they swapped it for a house, which I think is pretty crazy, but it's pretty awesome, right? It shows you kind of how bartering, how bartering creates the situation where you've got that imperfect information, and as in all cases with that, some people win, some lose, and yeah, I think we'll leave it there. So thank you very much for watching. If you do want to support the channel, as I said, leave me a like. I mean, if you really want to support me, you can buy this. It is good, but obviously you don't have to. But yeah, I mean, I wish you a very good evening, and yeah, I'll catch you next time. Thank you.